As the country battles to contain gender-based violence, there are growing calls for men to be at the centre of the fight against the scourge. Last week, a two-day men's parliament for the men's movement was held to look at issues confronting men in their communities. During the sitting, men from different communities across the country committed to working together to end gender-based violence in their respective communities. Now, to help us understand how men can make a difference in the fight against the scourge, I'm joined by Craig Wilkinson, founder and CEO of Father a Nation. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Now, we are within the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. What role would you say that Father a Nation plays in reducing the scourge during this period?
Well, I wish we could play a much larger role. I think we really aim at equipping men and restoring men and enabling them and inspiring and networking them to be good men. You know, masculinity is designed to be a safe space, a good space. And unfortunately, it's gone so horribly wrong. So that's the role that we play around the nation.
And beyond these 16 days, what role would you say men should be playing to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide?
Well, every man needs to look at himself. I think tragically, and I think this is the heart of the issue, we're living in a country where up to 60% of young kids are growing up without fathers, without older men to model to them what it means to be a man. And I think every single man needs to stand up and say, well, I'm going to be a good man, number one. I'm going to be a good mentor, role model, and father. And I think this is the role that men need to play. Older men need to mentor the way and model the way and show younger men how to behave as a man, because masculinity should be a safe space.
So would you say then that fatherlessness is a major contributing factor to the rise in gender-based violence and femicide?
100%, 100%. Almost every abuser has themselves had some kind of childhood trauma. And if you think about this, young boys look to older men to model to them what it means to be a man. You know, young boys growing up need someone to teach them and show them how to harness their masculinity to be loving, serving, giving, providing. And absolutely 100%. The lack of older men, older role models and fathers plays a huge role in this dreadful crisis. And the history of our country lends itself to that.
And just explain to us then the role of restoration of men, you know, as a form of nation building or nation reparation.
Right. It's a great question. Thank you for asking that, because there are two things really. Let me start by saying that no boy is born an abuser. No one comes out of their mother's womb saying, I'm going to be an abuser. Something happens on the journey from boy to man, from baby to masculinity and to wholeness, to adulthood. And this is what we need to do. We need to seriously take on the issue of raising good men and of training and teaching and restoring men. Woundedness in masculinity is something that drives a lot of destructive behavior. It drives the destructive behavior towards self. You know, the suicide rate amongst men is 4 times higher than that of women. It drives the rate of murder. A lot of men, murder each other, and it drives this dreadful thing of gender-based violence. Men should be a place where women, children, and other men are safe in their presence. And unfortunately, broken masculinity and wounded masculinity and a misunderstanding of what it means to be a man drives such destructiveness. So we need to make it a national priority. You know, the more policing will just almost like put a top on a pressure cooker. But ultimately, it's not the solution. And I saw the previous segment where, you know, tragically, we're training women how to defend themselves. We shouldn't have to do that. No woman should have to defend herself against a man. So we need to really make it a national priority to restore men to wholeness and to teach men how to be good men, what true masculinity means.
And I mean, you've been working with men and boys since 2010. Just talk to us about some of the impact that Father a Nation has made in the lives of some of the men and boys you've interacted with.
Well, thanks again for that question. I mean, the thing that we are most proud of, and the tragedies we can't do more, but we are growing, is the testimonies of men who've turned around. We've had extreme stories of men. Well, one of the things we do is we form bands of brothers, men getting together and just having a platform to talk about positive masculinity and to share with other brothers their vulnerabilities and their struggles. And we've had tremendous testimonies coming out of these groups. One extreme one recently was in KZN, where a man broke down in tears with his group of brothers brothers, and he said he was planning to murder his ex-wife, kill their child, and actually take his own life. And he said, I'm not going to do that anymore. And we've had many, many stories of men who've said, I have been beating my partner or wife, and I know it's wrong. And since I've been involved in this program where I now understand what true masculinity means, and I have a group of brothers around me to share these things with, I've stopped beating my wife. I've stopped being abusive. So wonderful stories from around the country. And the encouraging thing is we live in a country where there are so many magnificent human beings from every single background and socioeconomic group and LSM group, so many amazing human beings, and we're finding them. And it's a matter of encouraging them to be the man they were designed to be. And the more they are that, the solution to toxic masculinity is positive, healthy masculinity. And the more we can grow that and encourage that and create platforms for that to really flourish, the more we're going to see negative and toxic masculinity just shrivel up and die.
That's some wonderful testimonies there that you're sharing with us. So if there is a man or a woman indeed watching right now who perhaps had an absent father or a father who was present but not really very impactful in their life, where would you advise them to start to become a better person, a better partner and a better parent?
Well, we do have a free online course, which is made available through the No Excuse campaign. So at www.fatheranation.co.za/no excuse. It's a free online course for anyone who wants to sign up and do that. And that's a great starting point. I think the starting point for all of us as men is to look in the mirror, look at ourselves and say, is there any way that verbally, physically, in any other way, I'm acting in a way that's demeaning or abusive or harmful to anybody else? If I am, call out for help, cry out for help, because you're not alone, and we're not designed to be alone as men.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing those insights with us. So that was Craig Wilkinson, the founder and CEO of Father a Nation.